Hello love, welcome back to the channel. This is So with Oma. In today's video I'll be showing you how I made this palazzo pants. If you'd also love to recreate this square neck top, kindly browse through my video, it's already uploaded there. Without wasting much time, let's dive into the video proper. This is the pattern drafting and we'll be starting with the front. So the first thing I did is to measure about 4 inches from the top to the length. I just measured 4 inches and ruled a line across. So this will be our crotch space or our flap space, okay? So as we keep going in the video, you would understand why we got that 4 inches. The next thing we're going to do now is after that line, we're now going to start measuring all our vertical points. So I'll be starting with the hip line, the knee length, our length, and of course our hemming allowance. After marking all these points, I'm now going to rule a line across and name them accordingly. The next thing we want to do now is to get our crotch line, and so to get a crotch line, you're just going to tell your client to sit and then take the measurement from the waistline down to the sitting point. Once you get your crotch line amount, you're going to rule the line, you're going to mark it and rule the line across. Now you want to rule it into that crotch space, okay? Once that is done, ensure you name it the crotch line, okay? So the next thing you're going to do now, you're going to take the measurement from that your hip line to the crotch line to get the exact amount. And so on that your crotch space where you extended the crotch line into, you're going to mark whatever amount you've measured there. This will serve as your front flap. For me, I got 2 inches and so I just marked 2 inches there. Now the next thing you want to do is you get your straight ruler. In between that cross line, you want to rule a straight line across or a slanted line. So when you do that, from that margin point that connects the two lines together, you're going to measure out about 1/2 and 1/4 of an inch or 1 inch. Once that is done, you're going to get your curved ruler. From that, your flap, you're going to connect it into the 1 inch or 1/2 and 1/4 of an inch you measured up to your band line, okay? And then you're going to get your straight ruler. You're going to place it this way. From the knee length, you want to connect a straight line or a slanted line up to the flap. Once that is done, the next thing we want to start doing is to get all our circumference measurement. And so I'm starting with my waist circumference. I marked it there. So your waist divided by 4 and just mark it like so. On your hip line, your hip circumference divided by 4, mark it so. And then on your knee length, you're going to also take your hip measurement divided by 4. Remember, this is a palazzo pant, it is not a fitted pant. On your length and your hemming allowance as well, you're going to take your hip measurement divided by 4 and mark it like so. Using my curved ruler and my straight ruler, I'm just trying to connect all these points together. Also, I'd like to make this clear that I started all my circumference measurement from the line after the crotch space. After connecting all these points, you can now see that our trouser is already taking shape. So the next one to do is, because I do not want the waist area to just be straight, I want it slanted, like a deepening at the waist area, the center front. So what I did was I just used my straight ruler and came down by 1/2 of an inch so that I can get that center front to be deep. So the next one I want to do now is to have our dart. This is actually optional, but I'll be having a dart in this pants. If you'd also like to have a dart on your pants, what you do is from your hip line, you're just going to move up by 1.5 inches and rule a line across. Now you're going to get your apex measurements, that's your nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. And so you're just going to mark it like so from that your new dart line. And then you're also going to mark it at the top of your trousers as well. Using your straight ruler, you're going to rule a line across to connect the points. The next thing you're going to do is take your tape rule, measure about 1/2 of an inch on both sides of the line, and like as if you want to create a pencil, you're going to connect all the way from your dart line to the top like so. Since we have our dart, we're going to also have a dart replacement, and so on your waist area you're going to mark about 1 inch. Now using your curved ruler, you want to connect from your hip line to the dart replacement point. This is basically everything for the front. Now what you want to do now is to cut out all the irrelevant places on your pattern paper. Moving on to the back, you want to do the same thing that you did at the front by marking or getting your crotch space, but this time around you're going to be marking about 6 inches. So I marked 6 inches all the way from the top down to the length area, and then using my straight ruler I connected all these points. Again, this will serve as your crotch space or your flap space. Next we want to do is we want to mark 2.5 or 2 inches from the top downwards. So we're going to mark this all the way to the end of the pattern paper and then rule a line across using our straight ruler. After that is done, we want to mark all our vertical points from after that line. So I'll be getting my hip point, my knee length, my length, and of course 2 inches for our hemming allowance. Using your straight ruler, you're going to connect this point or rule a straight line across this point. And also do not forget to name them accordingly: your hip line, your knee length, your length, and then the other space, but it should be 2 inches of hemming allowance. Once that is done, next you want to do is to get your crotch line, and of course by now you should already know what your crotch line amount is. You're just going to mark it that way and then roll a line across like so into the crotch space. Please ensure you rule yours into the crotch space. I didn't do it at this point, but I later ruled it into the crotch space in the video. I made an error at the hip line, which you can see I'll be correcting here. The hip line is actually more than what I marked here for the back, and so I just corrected it like so as you're seeing me doing. Like I said earlier, you must connect your crotch line into your crotch space, okay? Once that is done, the next thing you want to do is on that your line, your 2.5 inches you roll down. From that line, you want to mark 1 inch up. This depends on how big the butt of your client is. So if your client is more than 40 inches in hip circumference, you would be marking up about 1.5 to 2 inches. But if your client's hip measurement or hip circumference measurement is below 40, then you can use from 1 inch. You can also see that from the crotch space line, I marked 1 inch in as well. Once that is done, moving on to the flap. To get our back flap, the front flap and the back flap is usually different. So to get the back flap, I usually add 3.5 inches to whatever amount I got as my front flap. So let's say the front flap I got is 2 inches plus 3.5, that's about 5.5 inches. So remember our line from the cross margin, we need to roll it out as well. Now from that margin point, we're going to be marking about 1.5 or 2 inches. 1.5 or 2 inches out. Once that is done, just take your curved ruler and connect all those points. So see what I'm doing. I'm going to be connecting from my flap to the 1.5 or 2 inches that you mark, and then to the 1 inch that I mark inwards from the starting point. Just follow how I wrote the line in the video. You're definitely going to get it right. So now the next you want to do is to get all your circumference measurement. And to get your circumference measurement, you're going to start measuring on your waist point from that new 1 inch you've moved into. Okay, so from that 1 inch you moved into from the initial margin. And this is only for the waist circumference. On your hip circumference, you would continue to mark from the line, that's the line after the crotch space, to get your hip circumference. Your knee line, you're also going to take your hip circumference divided by 4, and as well on your length and your hemming. Using your curved ruler and your straight ruler, you're just going to connect all these points to meet each other and form your pants, okay? Now I want to get our back dart, and to get your back dart from your hip line, you want to move up by 4 or 4.5 inches. Remember at the front dart, to get it, we moved by 1.5 inches from our hip line. So the back is different. The reason for moving up more than the front is because we want to allow more space for our butt to, be comfortable in our pants. So that was why we moved up, or that's why you will be moving up as well. And so again, you mark your nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 from your waistline. Mark it in, and then also from that line area, you mark it as well. Using your straight ruler, you want to rule your lines to connect those points. And of course, after ruling the lines to connect all those points, you want to also mark 1/2 inch on both sides of the line, like you're drawing a pencil. You want to connect from that 1/2 inch down to your dart line. Again, because we have a dart, we are also going to add our dart replacement, and so 1 inch out and then connecting to your hip line. The next thing we want to do now is to connect our flap to meet the length, and to do that, or to get that, we want to mark 1 inch out from our starting line, okay, into the crotch space. So we're going to mark it from the length to the knee length, and so we're going to rule a straight line, also ruling a straight line from the knee length to meet with the 1 inch. Once that is done, to work accurately, we want to get the exact amount we have on our front, that's from the flap area to the knee length. We want to get the exact amount that is there. That is what we're also going to use for the back as well. All right, so for me, I just place my tape roof on that my front flap and then to my knee length. So you're going to do the same thing. Whatever amount you get, you're going to mark it from your knee length. You'll be starting from your knee length. Remember, you must get that amount from your knee length. Once that is done accurately, you're going to notice that you no longer would be using the crotch line as your flap. You'll not be getting your flap from your crotch line. You'll be moving down with whatever amount that is left, and so you now use your curved ruler now to reconnect it down to that point, and then use your straight ruler to mark it from that point down to your knee length. You see that sharp line at your knee length? We do not need it, so I'll use my curved ruler to just, correct that. And so at the top, the next thing you want to do is to place your ruler in a slanted form and connect from your that intake up to the 1 inch, and that is that about the back pattern. So the next thing you want to do is just to cut out. You're basically done with the front and back pattern. Okay, so I just used this pattern paper to show you. I've already drafted it before, like the pants. I'd already drafted it in a brown paper, but because I did not film that, I decided to show you again from the starting using this white paper. So like I said, I've already drafted with a brown paper already, and so I just cut out. You can see that I added allowance. So I added 1 inch of allowance on every area except the length and the top of these trousers. So every side, including the flap area, added 1 inch. I hope you found this video useful. If you found this video useful, do not forget to click on the subscribe button. Do not forget to give this video a thumbs up. Also turn on your notification bell so whenever I post a video, you'll not be the last to get it. Like I said earlier, I have the top tutorial of this video uploaded already. Do not forget to check it if it's something you'd like to recreate. Thank you for watching. Till we see you in the next video. Bye.